Hello, everybody. It's Mr. Eckert here. We're going to go through notes today about the Maya and this week. For this section of the notes, we're going to do a 3-2-1 chart at the very end. You can do that. You can write it up and send it through Teams. You can write it up and send it through OneNote. You can email me it, or you can do the Flipgrid, which I'll have posted all of this and stuff like that. So we're going to summarize what their life was like, basically. And so here we go. So remember, if you are writing this down, I'm not going to, ask for it in writing or anything, but if you are writing it down, anything in yellow, you should write in your own words. Anything in red, make sure it is copied exactly. And anything in green, you do not have to write whatsoever. It's just extra information. So we are moving from the age of exploration into what they explored. We talked about the Native Americans and stuff like that, and we're going to talk about the Maya now. So here we go. We're moving forward. Wow, cool. We are finally out of Europe. Yeah, Europe was fun and all, but hey, that means we get more music, a different kind of music and stuff like that. There are many cultures within the Americas. Which one are we going to learn about first? Well, we're learning about the Maya first, part of Latin America. They're all the way at the top. Actually, they're right here in the pyramid of the PowerPoint here. And we're going to find out what some of their unique aspects of Mayan life are. So what we have learned about the Maya has changed a lot in the last 30 years. At first, historians thought that the Maya were peaceful and had a great society, but then they began to question that because of archaeological evidence. Most of the artifacts we find today have taught historians that more than likely the Maya were violent and warlike people, like some of you have described them in your ARE paragraph that we did last week. But they were an advanced people. They had math, they had science, they could build things, architecture, things like that, as we'll see a little bit later. So let's talk about where they live, their geography. This is going to be our first brain snack for this one. So for this brain snack, it's called Map Match, and sorry for the sound effect, I put it on the wrong slide. But I wanted to see if you could match this piece of shadowed out map with that of Central America. So it's a peninsula. What peninsula is this? So I'll give you a few seconds. Pause the video, you can look for that and things like that. All right, so this is the Yucatan Peninsula, for those of you who wanted to search for it. It was in your Maya walkthrough, so good job on finding those. So they do live on the Yucatan Peninsula. Here it is. It is a rainforest, as we'll see here in a second. So on the southern tip of Mexico, Central America, that's where they're at, Yucatan Peninsula. Very heavily covered in rainforest, that area that they lived in. Because it is in a rainforest, that does have some advantages, lots of food and animals and stuff like that, but it also has a lot of challenges as well. For example, let's go through some pros and cons. You have a lot of good land for farming, very fertile land, lots of trees grow there. However, there's not much flat land because there are so many trees in order to farm. There's plenty of water, of course, rainforest. Unfortunately, sometimes it floods, so a lot of the fields you would have would flood a lot. Also, there's lots and lots of trees for wood. Unfortunately, there's very little open space, like I told you. So here's the problem. Let's say we live in this rainforest here. Rains all the time, not a lot of farmland, lots of trees. We want to grow our own crops. How would we do that? Like, what would the solution be for this problem of not having a lot of space and having too much trees and not having a lot of farmland? Well, they came up with a really innovative agricultural plan. Here's their solution. It is called slash and burn. What they did is they burnt all the trees. When you burn all the trees, it leaves you flat land that you can use for farmland, and the ashes provide very fertile, good soil so that you can, you have good crops and stuff like that. Also, they also cut down trees so they can make way and all that kind of stuff of flat land. So there's your solution, slash and burn. So there you go. There's your field. And you can grow a lot of stuff on there. So this is called what we determine is an adaptation. An adaptation is changing your environment so it is better for you. So, for example, them using slash and burn, cutting down the trees and burning all of them, made it better for them to live there because they had farmland and crops and things like that. It made it better for them. So that is an adaptation. Again, Mayans' adaptation was slash and burn agriculture. Again, cutting down and burning trees to clear room for fields. So let's talk about their society. What were they like as a people group now that we know where they live and what kind of problems they had and things like that? Well, first, as with much of other civilizations that we've seen, they did have slavery. Where slaves came from and what they were used for, there's a lot of different, characteristics. So mostly the slaves were captured warriors when they went out and captured, prisoners of war and things like that. They would use them as their slaves, to build their temples and stuff like that. But also they used them as sacrifices. Yes, Mayans did do human sacrifices. As you can see, this was one of the pictures, the exhibits that I had on the thing last week, and it is depicting human sacrifice, as many of you guys said. So this made it kind of more of a violent type of people group. They also had an interesting way of thinking about beauty. It was very different. They found flat foreheads to be very attractive, and I'll tell you the reason like that about that in a second. So how they would do this is they would take a board, basically, strap somebody down, take a board, and they would, as a baby, flatten their foreheads so that skull you saw in the last week's exhibits, like that was their head. They have elongated skulls so that they could have a bigger forehead. So there's the skulls as we saw last time. Why would they do this? Because they grew a lot of corn, and corn was very important to their society. They wanted to look like what they determined was food of the gods, and that was corn. And so they wanted to look as much like corn as possible. Because the gods gave them, it was the food of the gods. So if they became corn, they would be like gods. So there you go. Another thing that they did, besides the flattening of foreheads, if that doesn't impress the ladies, you could cross your eyes. as this baby is doing. You could try crossing your eyes. They did that a lot too. Or you could jam a piece of rock, or really jewels, I mean, they were pretty much emeralds and stuff like that, into your teeth. And of course, tattoos and piercings, like this woman from the movie Apocalypto is doing. So any of those would work. Okay. So here's my other brain snack. We're almost finished learning about their society and their geography and stuff like that. Okay. So what I want you to do, using all the information, is before we get to the final thing, try drawing what you determine would be a good-looking Mayan based on the notes today. You can send me this. It's optional, obviously, but you can send me this if you want to. The main thing you want to do, though, is the next thing that we're about to do, which is the final brain stack. All right, so the thing that you want to do for today, all right, so what you want to do is do a 3-2-1 chart. You can do it on OneNote, you can put it on Teams, you can email it to me, or you can do a Flipgrid. I'm going to set that up too. What you're going to do, 3 pros of living in a rainforest is where the Maya lived. 2 countries that the Maya were located in, so you can Google that. Use Google to put what are the countries that the Mayas were located in. That'll be fine. And one way that they wanted to look beautiful, or way that they thought of beauty. Okay, and we went over that last. So there's your 3-2-1. That's all you got to do. Pretty easy. Get going.